Let's talk about it.
Hey, Richard.
Buena noche.
How are you?
I'm all
Hey,
right.
everybody. I'm good.
Going on,
I'm better now that I get to talk to you. How cool is that?
I am happy with it as well. What's going on, Jen?
Welcome. Hey, Dean. Hey, Brenda. Hey, Stephanie. Judy. How goes it, everybody? Man, we got a lot of people chiming in already. How cool is that?
Very cool. Well, we got really good stuff to talk about tonight too. Tara, how you doing? Penny, how's it going? Brenda, how are you? You still don't have your mirror.
Penny.
Later.
Hey, Penny.
Still don't have your mirror.
I know. I got to get that. I have to get a mirror. I'm going to have to. Telling you.
Guys, we appreciate Dean. How's it going? We really appreciate you guys coming out tonight.
Yeah.
I think first of all, how was your week?
You know what? My week was good. Thought we were going to have a rough start because we had a little bit of snow up here, but it's gone. Okay. It's gone. So we're enjoying that. It's not going to be gone forever, I can tell you that much. However, we're going to enjoy what we have now. So I don't know where anybody else lives, but I can tell you right here where I am, there's no snow.
Nice. Penny Hurst had shared for you. Thank you very much, Penny. We appreciate it.
Thank you. We really appreciate it. Hi, Angelina. Yeah, so guys, at the beginning of every episode, I stipulate that I may not be able to see all of your comments. And if you have any comments specifically for me, because we simulcast on different networks, Richard can see all the comments. And between him and I, we really try to juggle. Sometimes all of the comments are not brought up. Sometimes all the questions are not answered, and that's not on purpose. We're not ignoring you. We are so fortunate that you guys have so many awesome questions and comments and things to talk about that we just can't keep up with everybody. So if we miss your question or comment, please don't get discouraged. Feel free to ask it at any time. The next episode, if it gets missed and you have something important you want to chat about, then put it in the comments. Or you're more than welcome to message us privately if you'd like to after the show. We do our best, but we can't get to everybody's comments. So please be patient with us.
Right. And it's, and again, we're not, like Katie said, we're not trying to forget you. We try to keep the questions that I bring up to relevant.
Hey, Valerie.
Relevant to the subject matter or to the topic of discussion for the night. I will more than happy to bring them up so we can all talk about them.
Right.
Again, there are so many comments, and we love you guys for that. And there's so many people that want to get something out. We try to get through to as much as we can, but we have up to 300 plus comments sometimes in the night, and that's a lot to get through. And trust me, we want to get through as much as we can. I've got to earn that really big paycheck as executive producer. All right, nothing for nothing leaves nothing. But it's just the way it is. But we enjoy it. Catherine, good to see you. Valerie, thank you for coming out.
And thanks for taking the time to share, guys. Honestly, thank you so much. It is so much appreciated. Honest to God, we love the fact that obviously you think that we're valuable enough to share. So thank you.
Yeah, your time is valuable. We know that, and we hope that the information you garner from this show will help you or help somebody that's in the investigation field. And we love to hear shared best practices. We really do. This is Nikki Bow says it best. I mean, this is a network safe place that we can all get together and share ideas and share methodologies. And that's really, to us, it's very important. But this show tonight is an extension of what we've conversed about last week, but it was brought up by a viewer to me personally that they would like to hear about some equipment enhancing, things that might make equipment that you buy off the shelf or buy off of eBay that's already set up, or even just make your own. Katie's got a couple of surprises for you guys tonight about that, and we're going to try to bring it out to where it's it's simplistic. I know one of the things that she's going to bring out. I don't have enough of a degree to put that together myself, but she does. Because she is the paranormal Wikipedia person for me. She is
You
my
know,
paranormal Wikipedia.
I gotta tell you, that's a lot of pressure. That's a lot of pressure, Richard. I am by no means an expert, but I do try. You know what it comes down to, guys? For me, it's all about trying to learn as much as I can possibly learn. So what I do is I take ideas, I think about it, and I just try to kind of put it to work. And if I can experiment it with my team, you know, and they bring great stuff to the table too. Like my team's always got, you know, things to experiment with. So, you know, I can't complain. It's a good thing. So, you know, we're just trying to see if we can up communication, better communication. And, you know, it's not always about necessarily the gadgets, but how you use them and what you're using them for. That makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah. And it's
Hey, Marianne.
the equipment part of it.
Hey, Robin.
I
Nadia.
mean, just
Catherine.
an example of how important I think some of the equipment is. We did an investigation last night as a team, kind of you know, kind of a, you know, hey, let's put it out there. Let's see how we operate in this new building that we've got, and let's see what kind of interaction we'll get from what's there. Now, I have been to the Hamilton House twice before this, but to have a team, you have to make sure that team operates. Excuse me. Make sure that team operates really correctly with the same energies, same attitude, same, you know, stepping forward to be that person to do the right thing. So all the energies have to blend, because I have been in some, and I know, you know, Katie, you have as well, where the energies aren't right and that investigation goes in the dumper. It just does. But we were there last night and we had the place, I will say, covered with every possible device that would pick up or trigger movement. It was kind of like we blanketed the place and we were capturing stuff. So I mean, stuff you cannot, no false positives. It was that kind of equipment, you know, and we'll talk about that a little bit too. And then Katie's got an example of what I used last night as well. A lot of it, it was amazing to capture all of this, you know, with cameras running, everything else. They just couldn't get away from us. And it was just one of those most amazing opportunities.
Hey, Ellen. Hey, Jennifer.
To, you know, to actually engage the spirits that are in that building. They wanted to talk. It was just one of those things where if you had a device, it went off. It just did. You know, and I'm not really huge on certain devices. Being a psychic medium myself and clairaudient, I don't really need a lot of it. But again, for the team to see the operation of that equipment. So I've got a couple fairly new people on the team. So for them to see how the actual equipment is supposed to work was nice. But that's part of the investigation process. Ellen, good to see you. Jennifer?
And you know, Richard, you brought up such a great point. If you go into an investigation and you're getting the same bells and whistles in the same spot every single time, and I mean high EMF spikes, I'm talking about, you know, problems with your equipment or, you know, certain things happening, that's not always paranormal. So Richard had mentioned that sometimes you go into an investigation or you go into a haunted situation and you're not getting anything or you're getting less. That's okay too. That just goes along with part of the investigation and part of collecting of evidence that goes to show that this stuff is not happening all the time. If you had the same reaction every single time, so lots of times people will contact me and send me photos. They'll send me photos of lens flares or pareidolia or some sort of matrixing happening. And I'll say to them, take the photo 3 or 4 times in the same spot. And if you're getting that same image, then perhaps it's not paranormal. It's something, you know, could be worldly happening. So Richard, I think that's a great point because it is important to go to multiple times. It is important to kind of gather your evidence and don't be afraid to have different things happening in different rooms at different times. It's not like clockwork. Now, there are situations where residual energy can happen, where you may hear, you know, a door slam every day or a door may open and close at the same time. But, you know, you're not going to get the same type of spikes when that's occurring because it's a replay in time.
Right. Now, Catherine wrote up the first question. Can you also recommend how to cleanse the area before and after you use equipment so we can follow safety first? Let me jump in with my 2 cents.
Good question.
Then Katie will give her most articulate response because she's
Andrew.
better than I am. All right. So the challenge with it is if you're at a building that is designed to be a haunted venue, an active venue, they're not going to allow you to cleanse in that building. But what I have done is I have cleansed the team after the investigation, so nobody goes home with luggage, as I call it. But I mean, if you're in a private residence and you're in there to help them, then that would be a good start. I always cleanse with sage. Sage and sandalwood. It's just, to me, it's an end all be all. It's kind of like taking Advil for a headache. But there may be other methodologies you have to bring in if there is a real negative attachments. I use salt water a lot. I've had to ingest a half bottle of salt water just to remove an attachment from me before in an investigation. So, I would start out with the sage. Palo Santo is another one to add to it. I might double it up and double dip it and just hit it that way. I've had to use sage. So I use white California sage on an investigation. We were filming our show, and the camera person got jumped. She was not herself for about 20 minutes. And I could tell her conversation was absolutely different. Death stares at me like she didn't like me at all. I mean, those are things you got to watch behaviors. That's kind of a key. Let me just bring that up. You really got to watch everybody. You got to watch your six, but you got to watch the six of everybody with you. If they start acting differently, step out of the building, then consider your cleansing then. But let them step out of the activity first, because that's highly important. Because you're with somebody on your team or your group, whatever, you know how they act. You know how their personality goes. If you don't, then you're not spending enough time with them. Okay? So I'd recommend you know how typically people act around you. And if that changes dramatically or even close to dramatically, step outside with that person, give them about 15, 20 minutes of breathing in clear air, being in a better energy level, and see how they act. If they continue to act that way, then they're going to need to be cleansed. And that happens. But yeah, with her, it took about 5 minutes worth of saging. Sincerely, about 4 or 5 minutes worth of saging. And then she just started giggling. I'm like, oh, she's back. Because that's what her personality was.
It's always the creepy giggle. It's always the creepy giggle.
Yeah, why? Why the creepy giggle? But, for me, I did not stop until I saw her come back to herself. And, that's just something you've got to watch out for each other. No matter what we say here tonight, we've said in the past, that's just so key. You've got to watch your people. You've got to watch them. And I don't care, I'm not my brother's keeper. Yeah, you are. In the paranormal, you better be. That's all I'm going to say about it. But again, I would use sage to cleanse people outside of a building if it's just an actual active venue. Inside a residential, you can do it inside. It's perfectly fine.
Mm-hmm. And guys, don't be afraid to cleanse the containers that you keep your equipment in, right? I don't encourage you to use something that you would use every day. So there are different pieces of equipment that I have that you could be used for, I say, daily use. Here's a perfect example. Okay, this is a thermometer. This is a point and shoot thermometer. Okay, this is something that you don't purchase necessarily for paranormal investigations, but it works. We use these a lot. We have a few of these. Would I put this on my counter and leave it out so that I could use it every other day for other things? No. I find that putting it together with the rest of my equipment, segregating the equipment, I do have all of the stuff blessed. I have my equipment and I keep it in a certain area of the house. Again, that has cleansing principles to it. I find that I'm kind of segregating it. I tend to take off jewelry. So there are certain pieces of jewelry that are natural metals that can absorb energy, and I'll take them off when I'm doing an investigation. I won't keep those things on. Okay. So I encourage you to kind of think about what can absorb energy, and natural elements, metals, those types of things, crystals, stones, all different types of stones. Think about amethysts, okay? People do a lot of work with amethysts, but you may wear a birthstone, you may wear a topaz, you may wear an emerald. Those are all crystals, and they have vibrations and they can absorb vibrations. So it's important that if you're going to be wearing said jewelry, to make sure you're cleansing it when you're done. And it goes the same with your equipment. Keep it in one specific spot and cleanse it when you're before and after.
Yeah, and also too, I will tell you, there are times that on a really nice day, summer nice day, I will go out to my trunk. I will open the trunk. I'll open up equipment cases, leave them out in the sun.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's a great idea.
Good stuff. Trust me, it is. Joanne brought up a question. And I'm trying to see if I can get through it. could an entity come of someone's Ouija board on the TV that they are asking questions to enter your house? Maybe parent. Here's the thing with Ouija boards. I am not a naysayer of Ouija boards. I'm only a naysayer to if someone is watching publicly. Like, for example, I did a show years ago, and I was working with another medium, and he was real big on wanting to do a Ouija board. I'm like, nope, not on TV. Nope, 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 nope. Because it's one thing for adults to watch it, but then you might have a 13-year-old kid who was out and, well, I saw this on TV show. Richard's team was using the Ouija, and it's not the Ouija board. It's the fact that a lot of people, good percentage, high percentage, don't know how to close a Ouija board, don't know how to close that contact, push back that energy. And it's not that I don't believe in it or I don't want it used. It's just that I want the safety for everyone to be involved that watches it. If you want to do it privately, go ahead. The consequences are on you, only because if you don't know how to close it, you've left that traffic door wide open for good, bad, and ugly. And that is, I just sounded so southern. That just goes on. I just let that door wide open. So you've got to be really careful of that. If you're not sure on how to close a Ouija board, don't operate one. That's just my personal opinion. If you don't know how to close it, don't operate it. Don't.
Exactly.
It's a really, really powerful tool that I'm not real big on pushing everybody on. Let's learn one thing at a time.
Right.
Yeah. Now, Jennifer.
So, guys. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, love.
Jennifer Spear is my lead investigator, and she was using a FLIR attachment to her phone last night, and she was saying my FLIR didn't pick up anything, but it was kind of those tools like that are good if they're working properly. She worked hard to get that thing to work well on her phone, but she saw first a shadow that evidently didn't come up on the FLIR, but she saw a shadow figure. So. Again, in the equipment, and I'm saying that only because it's not so much the FLIR adapter for the phone. It is, you got to be careful of the equipment that you get. Now, Jennifer Spear is probably the most intelligent woman I know. And it worked sometimes. It just didn't capture the things that we saw with our own eyes. So again, you got to be in that position where if it's right, it's right. If it works, it works. If not, oh, well, it just happens. But we put the time in anyway. So that's right. All right. Sure.
So, guys, we had talked about last week, we talked about paranormal equipment. And after the show, we had a few people request us to talk about some things, basic things that you can use to investigate with. You don't have to spend the big bucks on equipment. So there are a couple things that I gathered that I think would work really well and that we've experimented with. So there's a couple things. Number one is a compass. Okay, compass can be, we're rocking it old school. You don't have to use this specific compass, but there are lots of compasses out there that you can use that when you dial it in properly and you ask questions, depending on the electromagnetic fields, depending on what's happening in the environment, it can actually cause these things to spin, and you can see a change in the energy when something's present. I encourage that when you do use something like this, that you're going to make sure that none of your electronic equipment is close, because that can shut off a false positive, and that's not something you want. So again, it's important to kind of, read the energy, read the room, make sure that you're not in a fear cage or in a high electromagnetic field area, because if you are, that can cause that false reading. A couple other things. So I guess I should explain a little bit. When you use something like this, I would go into the room and I would kind of hold it as flat as I could. You could put it on a table or on a floor, and you could start asking questions, and try to stay still and ask them to move the compass inside. And you know what, there is success with this. Some people have controversy over it. To be honest with you, I haven't experimented a lot with something like this, but I have seen it be successful. So sometimes if you run out of batteries, old trusty may be able to work really well.
Right, exactly. Now Cliff Jones brought up a question. He says maybe having laying sage may invoke spirits. Well, it's not so much in invoking. I've seen it to where if you had sage in your case, or near you that they don't want a lot to do with you. But I always leave my sage out in the trunk of my car. It is separated from the building, separated from the energy, and I will go out to my trunk like Batman and go get my toolkit.
Right.
That's the way I look at it. But yeah, I hear what you're saying on that, but I always leave it out in the trunk of my car.
So another thing that you can use is you can use a pendulum. So pendulums are really great for communication. You can ask questions and you can get them to perform. So you can ask you know, yes and no questions and stuff like that. But if you don't have a pendulum at home, you can use a necklace and you can put a ring on it, or I have a pendant here, and you can start to ask questions. Okay, so basically what you do is you're going to get to know the pendant. You're going to get to know the way it naturally moves. And you're going to try to keep your hand as still as possible. It's like, get rid of the hair. As still as possible. And then you're going to ask some questions. And, you know, you can ask questions that you already know the answer to try to make sure that you're getting the correct answer. So I could say, do I have a black dog? Okay, and I'm going to see what it says. We're going to try and stay as still as possible. And, you know, it for me, normally it circles when there's yes, and it goes back and forth when no, or it will go back and forth for yes and this way for no. So what I do is I get to know what I'm using, whether it's actually a pendulum or a necklace, and I determine what's yes or no by asking questions that I already know the answer to. You know, do I have 12 horses? Well, the answer is no. So I expect that to happen. Once you kind of get the answers going, you can use this for spirit communication and ask them to use the energy to manipulate the pendant. Another thing that you can do is you can make your own, and I'm not promoting this. I'm simply stating it has been done. But you can, on a piece of paper, you know, you have your pad of paper, you can write yes and no. You could write letters in the alphabet. You can create your own said spirit boards and have it direct to where you want it to go. This is something that doesn't cost a lot of money. It is something that you can do with spirit communication, and it's something that, like everything else, can be just as effective as the expensive stuff.
Yeah, really true. I'm not real big on having to buy the most expensive thing because it sounds all hyped up. There are things that you'll see later on in the show tonight that are very cost effective.
That's awesome,
and
Tim.
work just as well. And you know, it's just one of those kind of things that, again, when you go out to get those crazy tools and stuff, guys, buyer beware. Just beware. Now, Amanda brought up a statement. She said, me and my daughter got a says latch on, and we had to get help. And we got a cleansing done, and we were terrified, and things can be vile and nasty. My daughter was slapped. My dog refused to go in the house, and it's all okay now, but it left us nervy for months. You know, yeah. I mean, it's good that you got a hold of somebody that knew how to cleanse. That is my biggest gripe, is that first thing people want to do when they've got paranormal activity is reach out to a team. And I'm not saying don't. What I'm saying is do research on a team, bring them over, ask them questions, see if they've got connections. If they don't know how to cleanse a house, about someone who does know how to cleanse a home. Just don't get your house cranked up with investigating just to live with it. That's not a smart move. But I'm glad everything worked out for you. That's good. That's good news.
And, you know, as Richard mentioned, it's good to kind of get, you know, make sure you do your research on who you're inviting into your home, because you never know what you're getting. Make sure, in my personal opinion, this is my opinion, and I know Richard feels the same way, you shouldn't be paying for this stuff. So if a team comes in and says, you know, for $1,000, I can get rid of your entity, find someone else. It should not cost you an arm and a leg, okay? It shouldn't cost you anything, really. And just make sure that you know, and you know, with all of these things that I'm suggesting, I'll call it suggesting, make sure that you do your own research. You know, it's important to look into it and to realize what you're getting yourself into. When you create your own little board and you're writing the alphabet or yes or no questions on here, you're opening that door of communication to anyone. So I really encourage, when you're trying to say you would like to speak to your grandmother, okay, you don't have to hire a psychic medium to do it. You can communicate. We all have mediumship abilities, it's whether we work with it or not. So you can utilize something like this to communicate with her. My only kind of push would be that you stipulate who you want to communicate with. So if you want to talk to if I want to talk to my grandfather, I'm going to stipulate. I'm going to say, Grandpa, I'm going to say Poppy, I'm going to say his name, I'm going to call him. So it's the same as calling a person on the phone. When you dial that person's number, you have an intent on who you wish to communicate with. That is more important, okay? Because you're kind of narrowing down how that energy can come through. I'm not saying it can't come through, but you're narrowing it down and you have that intent on that communication. When you're done, what do you do with a phone conversation or a Skype session or you know, a virtual session? You shut it off, you turn it off, you shut the phone off, you hang up. So you can close your eyes and picture yourself hanging up the phone. You can, you know, picture closing a door. You can say goodbye, all of those things. It's just really important that when you do any types of communication, you are closing that door. As paranormal investigators, part of us closing the door is going home at night. I make a very, very big point when I get to my door, no matter where I've gone for the day, whether it's for investigations or readings or going to the grocery store, that I wipe my feet at the door with the active intent that it stays outside.
Grounding
and that way you're not bringing a lot of stuff in, okay?
Yeah, grounding and neutralizing. That's what she's talking about.
Absolutely.
We
So,
we have a separate, and two, just the other thing about the whole cleansing thing, we'll move on. You know, a lot of things also depend, for protection, a lot of things also depend upon your own faith. Wherever you're at with your faith base, and you just got to have enough conviction in it that it's helping you to be able to actually, the mind is an incredibly powerful machine. If you can think about it and push it, you can manifest it. And that's good and bad. So you got to be aware of that. But with the good, yeah, I mean, if you have a strong faith and strong conviction in your faith base, you know, to do things like rosary beads, whatever you have in your heart to believe in and be convicted of, do it. And added to, you know, the other things that we've talked about, it's big for you to have that protection. So do it. Do it. Brother.
Yeah. Now, Michael had asked if a compass is used, could a magnet give it a false reading? Absolutely. Michael. It absolutely could. And that brings a great subject. I did not bring it with me, and I wish I did, but I actually created an EMF pump. So basically what it is it's a couple very strong earth magnets and an electronic motor, battery-operated motor, that basically spins around and creates an electromagnetic field. And in lots of situations, you know, throughout the paranormal, they actually spirits use that EMF to manifest or to do a partial operation, full operation, or do spirit communication. And so, you know, if you were using a type of electronic or something like an EMF pump, or you're using a compass by a furnace or a electrical panel, that can put a false reading. So it's important that you know the area that you're reading and that you're getting into it. If you're doing an investigation in the middle of the forest and there's no natural running water, you're not standing on you know, iron or anything that, you know, that could be magnetic in essence, you know, but you're getting these spins, you know, something could potentially be happening. And you may not even be picking up on spirit communication, but you're picking up on a type of energy highway or, you know, a portal, you know, things, vortices, stuff like that. So it's important that you write it down or you take note of it and go back several times to see what kind of hits you get. Are you getting the exact same hit every single time? You know, if you're getting a cold spot in the same spot every single time you walk into the room, you got to ask yourself, take a FLIR system. So we use one of these. Not only do we use this for spirit communication, but we use the temperature gauge, and we use this to detect where the cold spots are. Right? So we want to make sure that cold spot, in fact, is moving, it's paranormal, and it's not from a draft from a window. Okay, so you don't need one of these things. You can use your thermometer, basic thermometer. You know, you can point and shoot. You can use all different types of things to, you can use paper. You take paper and tape it to the windowsill. And if there's movement, you're going to see that paper moving, right? And that's going to be able to indicate to you that you actually have something that could potentially be opening and closing a door. There's a draft happening, or it could be causing that cold spot.
Now, Timothy Shaw, this guy, I don't know this guy.
Tim, we love you, Tim.
All right, so he said, oh my God, I use compasses, magnet dust, still using dowsing rods, and a cork in water for detecting vibrations.
That's a great one.
Cool, pretty cool.
So Tim brought up a great subject. I here, my friends, have homemade do-it-yourself dowsing rods. Okay,
So
and
you're
I
gonna have to
decided.
describe how you did this. You're gonna have to
Okay,
tell
so
people how you did this.
I went to the absolute basics of this, okay? Like you can buy them, you can spend the money, you can buy them. I actually went to the store to see if I could get the best metals, okay? I was looking at the highest conductivity, okay? So think of things in a conductive manner um, can move energy, okay? So I was actually looking for copper. And then I thought, the whole point of this episode is to try to have things that you may have already at home that you don't have to spend a lot of money on and that are easy to make. So you know what I did? I went to my closet, I found a couple old clothes hangers, metal clothes hangers, and I cut these babies apart. Okay? Then I found a couple old pens. I took the pens off the edge, okay, so there's no ink in them. I stuck them on the end like this. And there you have it. A couple of do-it-yourself dowsing rods. And you know what, guys? I was experimenting with this. Richard and I were experimenting with this, and it actually works. Now, I have done dowsing before. We've looked for precious metals in the earth. We've looked for water for drilling and all of those things. And we've often used twitches off the tree. So we use willows. We use you can use different types of trees that you can use, and it's actually a fork. Okay, it's a split piece of wood that you would turn around and you would douse that way. So I thought, why not make this easy for people that you can experiment with? And so the same thing goes for the pendulum. You ask questions that you know the answer to, and you develop what it wants to tell you. So you try to be very, very still, and you would ask the questions. Now, as you can tell, these are free moving. Okay, I'm going to rock it and show you how it rocks back and forth. There's nothing causing resistance. Okay, so when I would start the question, I would start with them straight ahead and I would ask, and I'll ask the question, do I have a black dog? Okay, so you can see it's moving. I'm not doing anything to it. That's my yes, I do. Okay, and see how it stayed? I'm not doing anything to make these stay. I'm not angling them. I'm doing nothing. So then I will ask it to zero back. It will zero back. Okay, zeroing back. I'm going to give it a little assistance. Okay, so I'm going to ask, do I have a white dog? Okay, and I'm not doing anything to make it, and there's my no. You see how that works? So you can use something as simple as this. It takes 2 minutes to make with some pliers, a couple clothes hangers, a couple old pens. This is something you can communicate with, and it doesn't have to take a lot of money to do it. And you know what? It seems to have worked. I was able to use a little bit of that for spirit communication, and I'm happy with it.
Now, Michael brings up, how do I use it? How does the compass work? The magnetic field changes, and it'll throw the compass off. Very similar. I used to run fishing boats out of New York. It's the same thing. You get into an electrical storm, you'll see that compass gets thrown everywhere.
So it's kind of, okay, this is an exaggeration, but you see how it's moving? See, I'm shaking it around. Obviously, I wouldn't hold it like that, but it's going to be moving around, as Richard said.
Yeah. Now, Timothy Shaw said, I love using pendulums with an alphabet wheel. My mother taught me how to use pendulums by using a needle and thread. Wow, that's old school.
That's cool.
Holding like we would a pendulum. Yeah, you have to wonder how long that art, because it's an art. To use pendulums, to me, is an art. To use a lot of things, dowsing rods. It's again, that's something that. How long did that step back in time, and how many different ways? I mean, back in the old days too, they used to use a wedding band on a chain. Everything is out there. So you don't have to go drop 500.
No, exactly.
Something that makes it work or shines and blings and bees pretty. That you can just use dowsing rods or pendulums, in my mind. So yeah.
And you know what else you can use, guys? And here's an example. A candle. Simple as a candle. Go to the dollar store. It doesn't have to be expensive,
Thank you, Amanda. Appreciate it.
You light the candle. You're going to let the flame, you're going to get to know the flame. You're going to get to know. And I encourage you guys to use maybe a tea candle, like a tea light, or some sort of a candle that's, that can stand out on its own. You don't necessarily want to hold it. And basically what you're going to do is you're going to get to know the flame. You're going to get to, see how it naturally moves once the wax is kind of melted a bit. Then you're going to ask the entities if they can manipulate the flame. This is a natural element, and natural elements are easier. That's why they're able to use the natural magnetic force of the compass. They're able to use the dowsing rods. They're able to use that through that energy force. And the same thing applies with the candle. So you can get them to flicker the flame up and down. You can get them to move the flame back and forth. You can get them to put the flame out. There's lots of you can do with this. But like anything else, when you're doing any divination, shut it off, close the door, say goodbye, salute, see you.
Yeah.
I bid you adieu. Whatever you gotta say, I bid you adieu. Anything that you can say to stop it, okay, to shut that door down.
See, I knew I wasn't the only one. Tim says I'm naturally cheap, so I use the basic. Right. I'm a cheap ass, just like you, Tim.
So guys,
thank you.
Just real quick, Tim Shaw is a very, 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 he's a world-renowned psychic medium that has been on many different television shows. I can't even name them all. He's a well-established, television personality. He's a writer. He's got published books. He is one of the godfathers of the paranormal. So if you get a chance, he has a show called The Black Cat Lounge. Go on over. He knows so much. We bow down to Tim because he knows the stuff. So don't be afraid to check him out too if you haven't heard of him. I'm telling you, once you see his face, you'll know who he is.
Yeah, it's that face. You just can't forget him. He's also been in a show called Let's Talk About It.
Yes, a few times.
Yep, he has. We've always appreciated having him as a great guest.
Absolutely.
He even said, my hair looks good. How about that? Yeah, how about that? Hey, at 58, I'm so glad I have some. Hello. All right, so now Jen says, I keep seeing a shadow that goes in the back of Katie and Richard's screen.
Oh.
Traveling ghost. Oh.
We're going to have to cleanse, Richard.
I'm laughing with you because that for some reason does not shock either one of us. But yeah, because we've literally, like I said before, we've caught EVPs in the show, and I'm not even sure. I would assume they were on my end of it, but we've caught them while we're doing this show. And yeah, hey, when you talk paranormal, when you're around paranormal, it's gonna appear any way it wants to. So no, I wouldn't doubt that a whole lot. Oops, I just destroyed my great looking hair. Oh God. Oh my God.
So guys, another great piece of equipment. Okay, now we had talked about things you can find at home. Okay, so this is not necessarily something you would find at home, but this is another piece of equipment that we use depending on how large the building is. Now Richard had referenced this a little bit earlier, but this handy dandy trusty piece of equipment is a motion sensor. And so this has, let me tell you, when I tell you the amount of, I'm not going to turn it on because we would all see Jesus. It's so holy. But this thing's loud. Okay, so what we would do is we set it up. There's a remote control. There's 2 remotes that go with it. I did not spend a lot of money on this. I bet you I spent $15 on it. It was not expensive. You have the ability. I take the batteries out because the last thing I need is it going off in the middle of the night when the entities decide to, go for a loop. But basically we set this. Well, they want to communicate. They have, like, true story, they do make my fire alarms go off in the middle of the night for no reason.
Wow.
So I take the batteries out. So
no, I'd say wow, I'd say wow because it's done the same thing to me here in my apartment. My fire alarms go off for absolutely no reason.
Yeah. So depending on how large the building is, depending on where you want to investigate, depending if there is some sort of emotion or sensory thing that's occurring in a location, this is really great. A lot of times these are bought for garage doors or bought for, lots of things. So, again, remote, and you just let it go. Okay. And let me tell you, you will hear it when it goes off. It's almost too loud, to be honest.
Well, honestly,
so that really works too.
Yeah, honestly, we used last night, and funny you brought that piece out, Jennifer Spear and I used the same type of thing that we have together. It comes with 2 sensors, and the 1 base remote, or the 1 base station. And those things would not stop going off all night last night. And again, it's real hard to give a false reading on that because if you've got it in there, you've got to break that beam for it to go off. And we were hearing the footsteps to back up the motion alarms. But thankfully on ours, you can switch it down to being a chime instead of it being a screeching alarm. But guys, I'll tell you, the pieces she's shown and anything like it, don't go to ghost hunting equipment on eBay. Go to flipping Amazon and type in garage or driveway motion sensors. You'll see these. Jen said she got herself a set for $10. I paid 15 for it. If you go to paranormal equipment on eBay, not knocking eBay, but when people do specialized stuff, that booger wants $50. 50. For the same exact thing. So again, I'm cheap. So there you have it.
So here's another really great thing that you can use: a pen and a piece of paper. Okay, there's things that you can do with this. So here's a couple of examples. I'm going to take this candle and I'm going to draw the outline of the candle. And I'm going to make sure that it stays in that spot. Okay, and I'm going to leave it there. See how I've drawn around it? Now, I can ask that entity to move the candle. I can ask entity to shift the candle. I can ask entity to knock it off the paper. You can leave this and you can ask for that spirit communication, and you know, you can get answers with this. I would encourage you, I use the candle as an example because it was sitting here, but I would encourage you to use something that doesn't roll away. Nothing that can, during a vibration, you walking by or, you know, potentially slamming a door, carrying some stairs, something like that, that can cause it to move, because you don't want a false reading. Something flat that is, you know, going to stay there, that's going to help. Another way to use the paper, automatic writing. So automatic writing is something that you can do when you get into a meditative state. And I don't encourage first timers to do this, because every time that you open yourself up for communication, you have the potential of bringing something in. But somebody who has done the experimentation, somebody who kind of knows a little bit, you know, they kind of know what they're getting into. Basically what you do is you get relaxed. You get your feet firmly planted on the floor. You're not crossing your arms or legs. You know, you're comfortable, you're calm, you're relaxed. Close your eyes. I want you to picture yourself, you know, sitting in a comfortable position. Picture yourself in a warm environment. You know, wherever your happy place is. I'm going to take your finger in your hand and place it on said paper. I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to let the entities, give them permission for your hand only to be able to move the paper. And you will be surprised how many answers you get. You'll be surprised at how many pieces of information or numbers or words, letters, names that you will get back. Sometimes it does not make sense at the moment, but keep that in mind, because 15 minutes later, when you're on the third floor or you're driving to work per se, it may hit you at that point. So it's important to try and keep these together. Sometimes what you get is again not going to make sense to you, but you have to kind of put it together and piece the puzzles. Okay, once you do that, it will start to make sense. Lastly, a piece of paper. Again, I'm not encouraging this behavior. I'm simply stating that this is something you can do. And for those of you that are viewing that are under the legal age, okay, I encourage those minors to do this with somebody who is an adult. Okay, we're not saying children should be doing this. And parents, if your children are exhibiting signs and symptoms that they want to experiment with these things, make sure that you do your research as the parent, as the guardian, because again, this stuff can be dangerous. So basically what you're going to do is you can use this and you can make your own Ouija board. You can write yes and no, and you can do something like this, where they are going to, you have your eyes closed and you ask a question and you don't know where it's going to land, and they'll point to the yes or the no. You can put letters on it and make your own kind of spirit board where you have ABC, you know, the whole alphabet and numbers, and you can ask them to guide your hand to certain spots. Okay, right. That's another way that you can do it. All of these methods are, you know, I don't want to say tried and true, but we're not the first ones to be introducing them. And, you know, they have been effective for many, many years. We're going back to old school tactics.
Right. We are. Sometimes old school is the best school. I'm just saying, you know. Paranormal Nation Radio says concrete has rebar. Remember it gives off false readings. Yeah. And again, that goes back to what I said last week, when, yeah, you need to take a you know, kind of a median reading. You need to take a reading of the building with, I would use a K2 meter or any kind of EMF detector. prior to going to the investigation. So you'll know if there is rebar, you'll know if there is wiring under the floor. Or somebody will already own. Some cases, there's a stream that runs under buildings. There's a lot of those going on down here in Tennessee. I know for a fact. So, do a walkthrough and do it with a piece of equipment. No harm or foul there, but you'll know. You will know.
Absolutely.
We have a lot of comments.
Yeah, so good.
Okay, so
so Michael had asked about the pen. Yes, you hold it light enough. You can use a pencil too, something that you can actually make the words out. So you're not going to be pushing hard. You may find that they're going to guide you. It's kind of a funky feeling when it starts get going. It's the same with the dowsing rods. You don't have to have the little plastic caps. You can use it this way if you choose to. I wanted to because really, how can I control this? Like if I grip hard enough, I may be able to stop it, but I really wanted to make sure that it wasn't psychosomatics and it wasn't myself causing it. So I thought I'd add a little bit more to it that I could make it move even looser. So it doesn't have to be hard, but you're going to find that it almost feels like something is pulling it and pushing it. And it goes the same with the pen. You're going to find that there's pushing and pulling that's happening. Okay.
Nikki said here, and it's good to see you at the show, regardless of how late you are, girl. Is the tool only as good as the person using it? Yes, I believe that. Okay. Transference and misuse. It's honestly, for me, there's also another piece to that puzzle too. I think, again, your personal energy has a lot to do with everything. And, if you come into this and you have the right intention and, let me put her question up. Sorry. If you have the right intention, in using it, you're not trying on misusing it. But, again, you're having a crap day. You fought with your husband, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your wife, whatever. You're just in a real crap mood. That will change a lot of things. Because, again, energy breathes energy and attracts energy, and you really have got to be careful of what you're going into the investigation or whatever you're doing with the equipment. It really, you've got to be careful of what place where you're at. Let's just put it that way, where you're at, because if you're in a bad place, you go into an investigation with a bad head, your head's somewhere else, you're just all depressed, you're upset. That is going to change the scope of how a lot of the energy works with you. It will. So you got to be aware of that. So there are times that I've actually canceled or rescheduled because I've been in a crap mood, and I knew I was in a crap mood, and I knew that puts off a negative energy, and it puts off, and a negative energy again breeds what? Negative energy. So if you go into it low vibrational energy, that is what you're going to attract. And trust us, you don't want to do that. But there are times you just got to think it through. Everything requires a thought process. Not just a matter of turning on a switch or holding rods. It's a lot to do with everything. Your intent and your energy, in my point, and I'll leave this alone after that, but your intent and your energy level has a lot to do with the result. A lot to do with the result.
Yeah. And it's important too that if you're not doing this yourself, so I would encourage anybody who wants to do some spirit communication to have a buddy, do a buddy system, because again, Richard had pointed out earlier in the show that sometimes you don't realize entities don't jump out at you. They don't jump out at you and go, boo, I'm here. Lots of times you don't even know they're present, this negative stuff. And sometimes it's not even an energy or a person. It's an impression of a feeling or an emotion. So you may start to feel sad or depressed, and you don't even realize that it's not yours. You're coming out of this, and a half an hour later you feel sad, or you feel like you don't have any energy, and it's basically parasitic. So it's really important to have that buddy system where somebody can kind of assess you and kind of see it, along with a lot of these pieces of equipment. Have a couple people try these. Have a couple people, see how it works for each and every one of them. All of my team members have their favorite piece of equipment, but that's not to say that we don't swap and trade and we try them. There's certain pieces of equipment like my Ovulus. Okay, I've talked about this before. My Ovulus, it doesn't work so great for me. Okay, I love this, but one of my teammates, Liz, gets much better evidence, and it makes much more sense through her than it does me. Is it because she's a lot
Good to
calmer
see.
than I am? Is it because she's able to read the information, or they're able to, use her as a conductor to come through? Who's to say? All I know is that we all experiment with the equipment, and we kind of find our niche, but we're going to test the equipment and test the answers we get, not even with just the same piece of equipment, but with other pieces of equipment. So if I was to use the dowsing rods, I would make sure that I would get a good EMF hit at the same time. I would, couple it with, if I'm going to do it without any paranormal equipment, I would also have my compass going at the same time. I would be trying to snap photos, or have somebody with me snapping photos, doing an audio session. At the same time as I'm asking my questions, I would be having, an EVP session, and seeing what kind of audio I could pick up at the same time. So not only am I getting, a yes or no response, or may I, is there entities on the first floor? And I get a yes response. Perhaps during that audio session at the same time, you may hear that EVP say yes, or upstairs, or, is it a man or a woman? You may actually hear woman. So not only are you getting validation through your dowsing rods or your other pieces of physical equipment, but you're also able to pick that audio up at the same time. And to me, that's a better conclusion when you're getting multiple things getting the same answer.
Absolutely. And, when we do the experiment where we use an SP7, and you use them with headphones, and you blind the person doing that session of it, I always use a digital recorder to record the questions, and if there's any answers, to match up with whatever the person puts out of that experiment. Always, I'm an audio guy, you know that. I'm an audio guy from the get-go. But I would record everything. My recorders go on when we start, and they do not stop until we are done. And I have caught some extraordinarily amazing things that have supported answers during experiments and different things we tried. Similarly to dowsing rods, I've caught audio that confirmed the dowsing rod answer, and that's amazing stuff. So again, kind of to support all of this to a point, use backup systems, guys. Have backup systems. Confirmation is an incredible thing. Katie was saying that Diabolus doesn't work for her. Dowsing rods don't work for me. They don't work for me really well at all. But I will be the guy who is sitting there with a recorder, recording live everything that's being responded to by a person who's using the dowsing rods. I'll do that all day long. But again, I would use a backup system for confirmation every single time. I know it's like listening to 9 hours or 10 hours of audio, but so what? You wouldn't believe the stuff you capture to confirm anything. It's crazy.
Yeah. And the best thing about it is you may not even be getting the answer at the time or realize that you're connecting. But once you are done that investigation, you're going through the evidence, that's when it's like, holy, and that's what draws you back the next time. There's another piece of equipment that I use before we get into beefing up equipment.
Okay.
This bad boy. So this is not only a flashlight. So we should start off with flashlights. And I didn't bring my paranormal flashlight with me. I call it paranormal, but I just use it in investigations. It's not an LED. It is a normal luminant flashlight that you click on, click off. It's got a light bulb in it. There's a lot of controversy with flashlights. Okay, so through the paranormal community, a lot of paranormal investigators will loosen the flashlight, and it's not as big as this one. They'll loosen the flashlight so that the filaments can still be lit up, and they'll ask questions, and they'll get a light up response. Personally, that is not something that I would use in an investigation, because through the research that I have done, once the filament heats up to a certain amount or degrees, it wants to light on. There's a current reaction that happens, and the lights will come on. So for me, that's a false positive. Now, if I was asking questions at that moment with the flashlight, and I said, is there an entity here? And again, we always have an audio recorder going, or even a video camera going, and we pick up some sort of audio, we pick up an anomaly on the camera, well, then you can kind of say something's happening. But I like to use this as well. And this, my friends, is a UV flashlight. And I don't want to blind anybody, but this also helps to pick up things that we may not be able to see with our present eye. Now, when using a UV flashlight, I didn't bring it up with me, but I encourage everybody to have safety goggles on, because they will hurt your eyes. Okay, you don't want to stare into that. That actually it can cause problems with your sight. But I will use this when we're doing certain investigations, and I'll ask them to present themselves, and they may be able to show up in something like this rather than a normal spectrum, the UV spectrum, in a full spectrum sense.
And there you go. I have never used a UV light like
No.
that. I mean, I've had them on cameras and all, but never separately as a flashlight. Jojo asked a question earlier. I kind of want to get out of the way.
Sure.
It's a pretty simple answer, but she said, I have a cold spot on my knees every day at the same time. Is this one of my loved ones? Honestly, we can't say no to that. But I also can't say yes. If we're not part of that experience, I can't confirm and deny that for you. But, again, we're not going to sit here and say no. Paranormal is a weird duck. A paranormal is a very weird duck. There are things that are, for other people subtle in their evidence, subtle in their actions, subtle in their experiences. And then there are some that are dramatic. So it really just depends on which way spirit wants to go with it. But I really can't say no or yes, to tell you the truth. But it's a possibility. It's definitely a possibility. And Nikki said regarding the equipment, she said, I think that proves in a way that the power of the device lies in the operator in a major way. Yes, it does. It really does. Okay.
Now, people had mentioned before, I think Michael had said something about a red laser light. So guys, anything that you want to try to experiment with, there's no right or wrong answers, okay? But when you're operating with types of energy, you want to make sure that you have something conductive. You want to make sure that you're not going to get a false reading. So a laser light is actually a pretty cool thing along with the flashlight. If you want to ask the entity to step in front of the laser light and break that laser beam, or kind of make it blink on and off, or send you a Morse code message, or there's no wrong way in doing that. It's just important that you're not getting, you don't want to do it by mirror, where you could potentially be somebody's walking in front of the mirror, you're getting a bounce reading back through the mirror, and you think you're getting a result. So it's more about the ambient area, the area around where you're doing the investigation, to make sure you're getting these answers. The bigger the room, the longer the laser is going to hit to get to the end wall, right? So there's dust particles that could get into the way. There's certain things that can occur that can cause that. So along with the laser light, now I use a laser grid. We've used that with a static night vision camera to see if we can pick up movement. I wouldn't, say that a whole investigation would be caused, I would say there's evidence just because of that. But again, we use that with other pieces of equipment that kind of come to the conclusion. So you can ask them to step in front of it. I've had entities move a camera, not just step in front of the camera or move, but I've had them drop the camera down or move it, or pick the whole tripod up and move it out of the way to kind of say, hey, I'm here. Oh, you want me to step in front of the camera, baby? Oh, I'll move the camera.
Right.
And then you know what you're getting into.
And it's really funny to kind of put a stamp on the equipment portion about how things go. But Nikki said, do you feel that there is a great deal of projection and transference in relation to certain equipment? Honestly, I think the projection and transference has a lot to do with how approachable are you. Because again, there are a lot of spirits out there that want nothing to do with the person in a bad mood. There's spirits out there that want nothing with the person, do nothing with the person that's aggressive. There are spirits out there, and I approach every investigation, everything that we're doing, every question we make or ask with respect. And I'm not saying people aren't operating with respect, but to me, I talk to a spirit or ask spirit to do things as if they were a member of the family, because I have to remember they were human beings too, and they're not a dog and pony show. So, when I ask them to answer questions or I ask them to step in front of a device, I talk to them with that level of, hey, please do me a favor, But I think a lot of it has to do with it, because there are a lot of people that get into this business, as we call it, and they come in as a bunch of yahoos. Now, if you're not from here and don't know what a yahoo is, let me explain it to you. There is a team built in this state of Tennessee that I'm in. There's a team built every month. And they last sometimes just as long because they come into it with the wrong ideal, wrong sensibilities, wrong attitude, watch way too much TV, the wrong TV anyway. There are a lot of shows out here, and I'll give one guy props for what he does, and that's Steve Shippey. I've known Steve for a lot of years, and I watch his docs all over the place, and he does an incredible job. But he also does not push aggressive attitudes on anything. He approaches everything with an utmost level of respect, and that's the way it should be done in the field. You want the best results? Honey, not vinegar. Just saying.
Right. Yeah. Now, there was a couple. So, somebody had asked about, have you ever seen a negative grounded person that couldn't use dowsing rods? Now, you had mentioned that you don't have as good of success with it, and that's no reflection on the person. It just depends on the person's energy and how you read information. People ask me all the time. Well, I'll ask them, for those of you that don't know, my day job, I'm a psychic medium, so I do readings all day. And I get this question asked a lot. Well, I had a tarot card reading. Do you do the same thing? Or, I'll ask them, have you ever had a reading before? They'll say, oh, I've had oracle cards, or I've had, I had somebody do my tea leaves. In my personal experience, it's all the same. In the sense that it's how that person is downloading or receiving the information to give it to you. There's different methods. To me, there's no right and wrong way. It depends on how the cards are being laid out. It depends on how they're getting that information for you. So it's the same type of principle with these pieces of paranormal equipment. Some things work better than others with certain people. And that because I don't use cards, it doesn't make me better. I just download the information differently.
Okay, so Michael asked the question, Katie, how are the rocks behind you used?
Oh, well, you can throw them. No, I'm kidding. Okay, so rocks. Okay, so this one right here is that one right there that's lit up. That is a selenite lamp, and that is used to ionize ions. It brings in positive energy, and it helps to get rid of negative entities. Same thing goes for right here. This is a Himalayan salt lamp. Okay, it's pink Himalayan salt lamp. Same type of thing. Now, this will kind of cleanse the area and cleanse you, but selenite is my go-to. That's my go-to for everything. I like to use selenite, and I leave this places if I have to. It's of the gypsum family, but it does work quite well. And you can get all different shapes and sizes. So here's another example of selenite. Okay, it's really great, and it is self-charging, self-cleansing. So that means that you do not have to put this in salt water. I wouldn't. It will dissolve. It is a dissolvable rock, but it will charge itself, and it helps to cleanse other things. So I keep it together. Some of the other, so that's a gray crystal salt lamp that works just as good. This one I bought just for fun because it was round and it looked like a crystal ball. Again, a salt lamp. Some of these other pieces of rock. So this is sodalite that came from the sodalite mine here in Bancroft, Ontario, and it works really well. This is good for getting rid of anxiety. It's good for open thinking. It's good for helping to make decisions. So I could go on about all my stones, but basically each stone is used for different things. Okay, they all have different vibrations, whether it's for protection, whether it's for cleansing, whether it's for changing, an ailment or changing an emotion that you're dealing with. I use a lot of these for healing.
Okay. Timothy says,
I hope that answers your question.
I hope so. I hope I have a paranormal music box that works off of an IR sensor. Absolutely crazy results. Yes, I have the same thing. We used it last night at the investigation at the Hamilton House, and it had incredible results. It's the older ones are not older. They're a year old, I think. When they first came out, I was 2 years old. When they came out, they're extraordinarily expensive. I would say $350 US. It's a lot of money. You can get them now. Bob Christopher or the Ghost Detective on Facebook. You can find them either way. He actually makes them now as well, and they're a lot more cost effective. But I would tell you that they are an incredible little piece of equipment that you can get now from him. I think they're $89. But they are incredibly sensitive to movement. And again, it's hard to get a false reading out of it because unless something is breaking the beam, or being caught on the beam, it's not going to go off. So we had that thing dancing and playing for almost 2 hours last night. It would not stop, on and off, on and off. But again, it was in an area that we already knew there was a lot of predictive movement, so that kind of helped out.
So somebody had talked about radio stations. So this handy little device here is called an SB7 Spirit Box. I got a few of them. So what they do is they sweep through radio frequencies really quickly, for those of you that are asking, or don't know how they work. And basically, it's said that the entities can come through and they can communicate. You don't have to have one of these to communicate, okay? You can actually turn your radio to one station, have some white noise going, and start asking some questions. And you can see if you can get some entities to come through. So if you don't have a spirit box, you don't have to spend the money. You can experiment with white noise. White noise phenomenon has been happening for a long time. There was actually a movie about it back in the 90s, I believe. I'm dating myself. It's something that you can do. Now, we had talked about beefing up equipment. So this little handy dandy device, it's actually quite awkward, is a device that I put together. I'm not going to say I invented it, because I certainly didn't. Somebody else did have the idea before myself, but I thought it was a great idea, and so therefore I decided to make one myself. And basically, what this device does, it consists of a speaker, a reverberation pedal, and a noise quieting, a noise canceling pedal. Basically, and what that does is none of this is made for paranormal. Okay, so basically what I did was I took a speaker, an amplifier speaker, and I was able to plug a spirit box into it. I was able to turn that on. I was able to put a little bit of delay in it, so delay and noise canceling, which means it slowed the sound down, and then I was able to cancel that white noise sound. So for those of you that have ever listened to this, I don't know if I can, I'll turn it on. Let's just see if I can make it go. Is it gonna go forward? Can you hear that? Do you hear the white noise, everybody? Can you hear that, Richard? Okay, so now you can do spirit communication through that, or you can fast forward it and sweep through it really quick. So you hear that? Basically, that's what's happening, is it's going really quick. But after hearing this for a long time, number one, it gets annoying, and number two, it sometimes the words coming through are not clear. So what I did was I took this, I beefed it up. I also added some copper for conductivity, and there's more to it, but I actually took it off. And so we use this to communicate, so we can get the answers back when we ask the questions, and we're not hearing that white noise. So this is something you can use, and I encourage you to use some sort of metal conductor like copper or silver or something like that that's going to kind of amp things.
We're going to call you Tina the Tool Woman Allen. Yeah, that's what we're going to call you. Yeah, you're now the new female Tin the Tool Man Taylor. That's what you are there.
But But don't they already have a Tina Turner?
What?
You said it was Tina.
Keep on turning. Raspberry, keep on burning.
Right. Now you guys had asked earlier about my millimeter. So what I did was I beefed it up as well, and I added some silver and copper alloy solder. I did this with a lot of the pieces of equipment that I have that have antennas, just to beef it up a bit. Now I didn't do that with my spirit box because, believe it or not, I don't want to pick up radio stations. So sometimes we'll use what they call a fear cage, and basically what that does is you put it in, boom, and it can't. You're not going to pick up the radio stations that you would with the antenna up. Normally, when I conduct investigations, I don't put the antenna up because I don't want to hear the radio station.
Right. Yeah, you don't. You just want to hear white noise. And I've seen a lot of people pull up the antenna and also put extensions on those antennas. I'm like, you really don't want to do that. I mean,
yeah. Now with the millimeters and my REM pod, same thing. Like, I got rid of the antenna, so my REM pod. So here's an example. I always encourage everybody to use a tripod. You don't want it on the floor because the vibration can set it off. But I got rid of my antenna, and I actually have a few different versions of that. I created my own antennas. I can bend that sucker this way if there's movement. I can bend it certain ways without it breaking and cause not necessarily motion, but make it directive. Let's put it that way. Make it directive if I want it in this location, and
Jeremy?
I can make it work. So, there's certain things that sometimes you like to personalize, you like to beef it up on your own. Have I gotten good results with it? Absolutely, I have. Am I still experimenting? Absolutely am. I'm always trying to change things, up them, and kind of get answers that way.
Yeah, our friend of the show, guest co-host, and wonderful, great guy, Jeremy Leonard, also came on the show tonight. Thank you. Appreciate you showing up for us. It's been great to see you.
Yeah.
Good to see you, bro.
Yes, Jeremy's been going through some he was ill for a little while, and so we're so glad that you're feeling better and that you've tuned in. Thank you for staying on this side of the grass, Jeremy. We're sending you lots of love and light, buddy.
Now, did I just see Carmen post tacos? What? That's a different energy, and we don't want that happening on investigation. Yeah.
So I guess we should ask, what do you guys use? Is there any pieces of equipment that we haven't presented, or that any ideas that you have that, you may use during an investigation that you find, pretty successful? Like, what would you use? I'd love to hear it, because I'm always, Richard and I are always experimenting and trying to do more.
Yeah, we're always trying to do more. I try to do more than I'm even allowed to do, I'm just going to say. We have a lot more freedoms here in the States, though, to do kind of stuff that, in Canada, it's been really kind of pinned down. You guys don't really have a lot of opportunity. You've made mention of that several times before. So, for us just to pick up and do an investigation last night, for us now, is kind of old hat. But down here it is. And, got to get the gates down, got to get you down south.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, no, dude, the minute that I can, I'm there. Like, let me tell you, I'm there in spirit.
I'm there in spirit. Stop it. Stop it. One of these days I'm gonna have to get you on remotely and see if you're picking up stuff remotely. And we'll get you that way.
I'd be all over that.
Could have done that last night, but we were just it literally, again, I know I've kind of wowed this event yesterday, but it was so solidly one of the most active investigations I've done in years. So I'm so looking forward to this place being the event January 1. But yeah, there wasn't literally not a piece of equipment that was not hit last night, not one. And we had a lot, because Jennifer brought a small pickup truck full of stuff, and and then I had my stuff, and every piece of it got nailed. Every piece of it, without fail. It's great stuff.
Yeah. Guys, if any of you have children or have any cat toys, any you can go to the dollar store, get golf balls. You can get, any little trigger objects that you can use that have wheels that are able to move. So dinky toys, the little die-cast toys, children's dolls, those types of things you can use as trigger objects to try to communicate. You can ask them to move these things. You can ask them to light them up. Again, they do not have to be expensive. You can, in another real great way to do it, it was mentioned in an earlier episode, you can take glow sticks. You can go to the dollar store, pick up your glow sticks, you can hang them and ask them to move these things. Once they're free hanging, you can find out whether or not, these things are actually manipulating stuff, okay? You can play with different things that light up. Like I said, flashlights and stuff like that, you can use those as trigger objects for them to actually move the flashlights. Anything that can give you kind of a positive result in terms of communication, utilize.
And Michael says, Katie or Richard, what part of the day do you use using expensive devices anytime we want? Spirit activity is 24/7, so it really just doesn't matter at all. If you don't have something that lights up and you're in a dark place, you're not going to use dowsing rods really well, but anytime you want to use them, they're definitely there for that. Here. Katie and Richard, do you help others with these entities? Yeah, both of us help families, help people that need the help for cleansings, whatever. And then Jennifer's talking about the paranormal hangover.
It's real, people.
It's real. I always tell people to pre-med with ibuprofen before you get into the investigation, because it's an anti-inflammatory. And that's what happens to you when these entities decide to kind of hit you up for an energy. It'll make you feel like you've been in a fight the next day sometimes. You got to really be careful. Now, 70 says, I know this sounds silly, but what about the magic 8 ball? I've had chills for asking questions before. And again, I can't say that there's not something that spirit might not be able to push or move in that ball either. I mean, it's, again, I can't say yes or no to that either. For me to say it's kind of a kind of thing, I can't say that.
Yep,
I mean,
for
I
sure.
could, but I'd be weird.
Now, David Curran had said, I would like to be a mouse in the future with what investigators will have to connect with spirits. How cool to think about. Hopefully in our lifetime, we'll see it. So, you know what? Yeah, I agree. I think that there's so much learning that we have to do. I think we are doing breakthroughs. I think that, it's starting to become a focal point in an engineering standpoint of how much equipment. I mean, over the last 10 years, the amount of paranormal equipment that has been focused simply on communicating is astounding. For many years, investigators did not have paranormal equipment. It was simply equipment that they figured they would experiment with, and it became successful. Therefore, they kept using it, right? So, yeah, I agree. I think that the more that we can learn about this and get positive results, the more we're going to learn.
Now, Valerie says, once my transcription, AP transcribed the weird location in a silent room. I've been thinking I might let it run and see what happens, but I'm a touch nervous. I'm not sure what a transcriber or transcribed.
So that is, yeah, so that's somebody who goes in. I think what you're meaning, Valerie, is somebody who gets into a trance type mediumship. So they're kind of calming themselves or getting into messages from the other side and in a weird location in a silent room. I've been thinking I might let it run and see what happens. You know what? You can try that. Everybody can contact their higher level of consciousness or their guides or communicate with loved ones through meditation. If you simply want to go into a room, you don't even need any of these physical objects, really. You can sit there, close your eyes, get into a meditative state, and open that door of communication of what's coming through. My only hindrance, my only, worry is that when you do that and you open yourself up to said communication, you don't know what you're getting. Okay, so it's like opening up, the floodgates. You don't know what's coming in through it. So if you're in a situation where Aunt Jan died in the house, you're getting paranormal activity, things are occurring, and you want to ask Aunt Jan to stop locking you out. Okay,
hey, come on, Aunt Jane.
You can get into. I said Jan. Aunt Jane would kill me if she'd kill me if it was her. She'd be locking my ass out. But if you want to communicate with somebody is occupying that house or you believe to be haunting that house, then stepping into a meditative state and kind of opening that door of communication through meditation may just be as successful. You always want to, just because you haven't had a robbery or a theft in a long time doesn't mean you shouldn't lock your doors. Just because you haven't had, negative things happen for a long time doesn't mean you shouldn't, just because you haven't gotten sick in a while doesn't mean you shouldn't sanitize or wash your hands. The whole point I'm saying is it's really good to do these preemptive things to make sure that you are keeping yourself safe.
All right, so Michael says, are these spirits that would prefer to be left alone? Yeah, there's a ton of spirits that would prefer to be left alone. I mean, there's a lot of times, I have to say that when you get told to get out, it has nothing to do with the threat. It has a lot to do with please leave me the hell alone. I really don't want to bother you. Or, there's the other take on it that I had too is, hey, they still may think they live here. They still may think this is their house, and who the hell are you in their house? Get out. I mean, that's just, you have to look at it. Everybody goes, oh, it's a threat. No, it's not. Not all the time. No. So, there are a lot of spirits that would be left alone. Well, that's why a lot of them, in my theory, and it's just my theory, and I'm entitled to that once in a while. In my theory, that's the reason why they hide. That's the reason why they go to attics. That's the reason why they go to closets, basements. They don't want to mess with the living. The living can be really confusing as it is nowadays, especially when you don't look like they do and how they feel they appear, how you don't sound when you speak the way they do. Your attitude, your approach to different things is weird and different. they just want to be left alone, man. There's a lot of them like that. And you got to take heed sometimes to that leave me alone thing and just leave them alone. Go somewhere part of the building or whatever and leave them alone. Let's not poke sticks at them because it's not cool. Timothy Shaw says, I love working with Steve Shippey. He's a great guy. Great guy. Final
Absolutely.
Point. Now, Jennifer makes a point here. She says, you are the same in death as you are in life. You are quiet in life and you want to be left alone in death. And you're right. That behavior goes with everything. That goes with you being a jerk. That goes with you being a nice person because now you're personified. So you're personified in death based on who you were in life. And then we deal with a lot of jerks and we deal with a lot of nice people. And then you also have the ones that you deal with that don't even know they're dead yet. That's fun. Not fun. Definitely not fun. So we've got a lot.
All I know is that when I come back after I die,
you're haunting my ass.
I'm going to be a size 2, and I'm going to eat as much food as I can without getting weight.
Yes. Yes.
I'll haunt a restaurant is what I'll do. I'll haunt a restaurant.
I'm haunting a donut shop. Valerie says, my radio station has been switching without warning and was tested what might cause it, and it doesn't repeat. Can I blame Dean's dad? I don't know if you can or not. I'm not going to put him at fault. I don't know the gentleman. You never know. You just never know. Yeah, so I don't. Oh, Dean, is that the guy from Supernatural? Is that who we're talking about? That Dean?
No. So Dean, I think Dean's actually angry with his dad. And so his dad's been trying to make communication because he's blocking him out. And he has to forgive his dad because his dad left when he didn't want him to go.
Makes sense. Nikki says, I feel we are our own best piece of equipment. If piece can be readily manipulated, so I wonder how we can learn to be more thorough and less susceptible to BS. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've always said that. Katie said it. You are your best piece of equipment. If you go into a room and your buddy says, get the hell out, get the hell out. You don't need to be there. It's just one of those kind of things. Your body reacts to energy changes. So if you get into you get near a portal, you're liable to feel nauseous. You're liable to feel dizzy. You're liable to feel a lot of things, maybe how your body reacts to EMF. Same thing. If you feel you're being followed, there's probably a pretty good chance you are. It's just a matter of just listening. And that's the problem with all these gadgets. And yeah, we do talk about equipment, but we use stuff that is necessary to detect. But you don't want to get to a point where it's just so much that you just turn this off. Because you can do that. You can get to a point where you turn off the thing that makes the best difference, which is your brain. You could turn that off and just go around looking for the lights and the bells and the whistles. Bring 1 or 2 pieces of equipment, leave it alone.
Let me tell you something. As a psychic medium, I tell all my team members, if you see me running, run. I go in blind usually. I go in the sense that I try not to know anything about the history of the location. I try to get my feel out first. I try to get my psychic impression first and go to each room and go to the area and see what I pick up. It's at that point that, depending on what juju I'm getting, depending on the feelings I'm getting, where we're going to conduct the investigation and what we're going to do. I try to shut that psychic side of me off and become the paranormal investigator. I will tell you that some of my investigators get quite frustrated when I'm like, did you hear that? Did you see that? How come you didn't see that? How come you didn't hear that? Because I forget that they don't hear things the way that I do. So it's important to me to kind of shut that psychic side off and just be the investigator. But if I'm running, there's usually a pretty good reason why.
And I don't have to be the fastest. I just got to be faster than you. Well, look at it. Brent Paisley, he asked the question, would you be more prone to paranormal activity if you have anxiety? I would say yes. Because your mind is going at 100 miles an hour and receiving info. And hey, paranormal activity is receiving info. It's called a download. So yes, I would say yes to that. I'm not a doctor. I'm just saying yes, because I've known people with anxiety and they are riddled with paranormal activity to go along with it. So yeah, that's not to really put a fine point on it, but that's putting a fine point on it. All right, so we've got
Agreed.
we've
Absolutely
got 5
agreed.
minutes left.
Guys, it's been an absolute blast. It always is. I always feel so good coming into this because I'm just with a bunch of great people.
Now,
Honestly.
Adam says, Katie, can Himalayan salt lamps affect people differently?
Yes, in the sense that sometimes there's a calming effect.
Thank you.
Sometimes it can be a tiring effect. Sometimes, there's different ways. It's not only is it an energy shift, but it also has been proven to physically cleanse the air, right? So it's an air purifier. It's important that you get incandescent bulbs, not LED bulbs, because it's the heat that these things, like these bad boys, are kind of warm, right? It's the heat that's putting that stuff off. So salt is a purity. Salt is a purification. We use it in cleansing practices. When I'm cleansing a location, I will salt my thresholds at the same time. And so it does a couple things. So yes, it absolutely can. Sometimes it can have a negative effect. If you're having a negative attachment or some sort of parasitic attachment, and you use the salt as a cleansing, it can make you feel sick. And it's not necessarily the salt that's causing it. It's the fact that this energy does not want to dissipate, or the energy is trying to break away from you, and it's causing your energy field to shift. So yeah, it can absolutely, just depending on what you're dealing with.
I'm still trying to go through. We have so many comments. This was such a great night for interaction. We really appreciate it, guys. Trust me.
Yeah. And you know what, guys? If you have any subjects you'd like to hear about, if you want to know more about this stuff, again, reach out. This is why we do what we do. If we can answer these things for you, or if we can do some research for you, if we don't know the answers, we certainly will. I guess I should be saying it's going to be Thanksgiving next week for you guys, is it not?
Next Thursday coming up. Yeah, Thursday coming
up. All right.
We're going to get on the feast board.
Yeehaw. So you know what, guys? All my American friends, happy Thanksgiving. We had ours a month ago, essentially, at the beginning of October. But for you guys, I hope you have a happy and healthy and safe Thanksgiving. Eat lots of turkey for me, will you?
Now, Tara, kind of one of the final things to bring up. Tara says, are you guys going to do another show where you share evidence?
Yeah, we can certainly do that.
We can. With me, it's going to be mostly audio. I got to tell you, I'm an audio guy. I am trying my best.
I hear you.
The title. I'm trying my best to get the title of Audio Master. But we'll see about that. That still doesn't even sound anywhere near as bad as the voice you put on the beginning of the show.
Hey, I think that was pretty good. I think it creeped people out, and that was what I was going for, so it worked.
Now, Timmy's got a quick one I think was interesting. He said, I love using ping pong balls set on golf tees. I've had them fly across the room. Cool idea. Another one, too, I saw on a show not too long ago I thought was really interesting was taping balloons on strings and entryways of doors.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I had thought about doing that last night at the Hamilton House. Because there was so much in and out of these two rooms. It was just crazy.
Can always go back. That's the cool
we are.
thing.
January 1st is when we're having our public event. Going to be interesting. We're going to have fun.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
Great. Now, Ellen asks if she comes on the 1st, does she bring some dolls? No.
That's a big no, Chief. I'm not even going, and I don't want the dolls there.
No, I don't want the dolls there. No.
No dolls. I don't know what it is. Well, I mean, I do know what it is. Years ago, they used to, have the spirits of dolls, right? When a child would die, they would put it in said doll, and so that it would keep the things alive. And I'm not kosher with that. No, thank you. Nope, I'll pass.
Nope. And I'm just, wow, we've got a lot on here. Guys, we're sorry we've run out of time. My gosh, now it's 9:29. Good God.
Yeah, last really quick question. Joanne says, when investigating and you find people that did wrong and ask for forgiveness, do you give it? You know what, Joanne? That is not my place to give. That is their place to give. A lot of times people are stuck here on the earth plane as ghosts instead of spirits, I call it, because they're afraid of that, because it's themselves holding themselves here. And so for me, that is not my place. For me to be able to equate it, I can make them aware of that. And usually if somebody wants to transition and they're asking for help, I will make them aware of that. And it's at that point that they choose to cross over. But I would never say, I give you permission to leave now, because to me, that's just, I'm simply there as a guest as well. And I don't feel that it's my place to do that.
No. And Joanna was not sleeping. I was not nodding off. I have to look down in a direction with my head to be able to see the comments. So yeah, that was an executive producer looking at comments, not.
And if you see me looking down, I'm doing the same thing. So guys, it's been an absolute wonderful episode. Again, thank you so much for joining us. If you like what you see, don't be afraid to give us a like and share. And that way, hopefully we can kind of, touch other people and perhaps maybe they want to learn something or they want to share something. We've had a lot of great ideas, a lot of great comments. Everybody, they've put their 2 cents in and we appreciate it.
All right, guys. Well, thank you very much. We hope to see you next week. Please, if you like the show and you've enjoyed yourselves, you had a good time, share the show, guys. Give us a like, share this show. We'd appreciate it. More people that get to hear this stuff, we think is a better impact all the way around. So thank you all in advance if that's what you do for us. We really appreciate it a lot, and we hope to see you all next week.